welcome to my very first podcast. I am so excited to be podcasting. I feel like I have been trying to find my thing with my creative outlet on Instagram or TikTok or whatever the platform may be. And I realized that really like what my soul is calling is just to talk to you guys and get my message out there. I am on a journey to help teach people how to live a little bit more, live a little bit happier. And I felt like I couldn't do that to the extent that I wanted to on Instagram. And, I guess I should say by trying to be like vlogging or be like a creative, I really feel like podcasting is going to give me the time and the length that I need to get my messages across. So if you want to hear me talk a lot, you are in the perfect place. If you don't want to hear me talk, you should leave right now because I have a lot to say. And today's topic is about manifestation myths, the do's and don'ts. I'm going to give you some of my top 5 like key points of actually honing in on your manifestation journey. And when I say journey, I mean it. Like manifestation is a lifelong journey. It is such a process and it is so easy and beautiful and just aligned when you get the hang of it. So I felt like the beginning of 2025 is just the perfect time to get this information to you guys so that you can start right at the new year, right at the kickstart of probably some of your other goals that you're trying to hit right now. This will just be the perfect time to talk about these top 5 tips, myths, do's and don'ts so that you can take it along with you through this next year and hopefully for the rest of your life, starting to build those healthy habits. Manifestation is such a, honestly, people try to make it so complicated and it's really not. It's almost like there's this like stigma in the manifestation world that like if you keep yourself kind of mysterious, you use these like buzzwords and you just make it so nuanced that you're like you know a little bit more than everybody else or something, or like you have this like cool like secret thing that you know about and that you can do that nobody else can. And I'm not here for that. I am here to teach every single one of you that it is possible for you to manifest. I want you all to be living your best life. I want you to live a little bit happier, right? And manifestation has all of these like gurus. There's a lot of really good ones out there, but I just see so much on TikTok and Instagram of people just like making it sound so complicated. So the first thing that I want to talk about is getting into high vibration. And I had to write everything down because I'm an ADHD girly and I will be so off track if I don't have a list to keep me aligned. High vibration is something you hear about so much in the manifestation world. People will be like, oh, you've got to get in high vibration. You've got to be one with the universe. You've got to be where you are wanting to be in your spirit to actually bring anything in. And I understand where they're coming from, but it's almost, in my opinion, kind of like fear mongering. Like, oh my gosh, I have to be perfect and I have to be in this awesome mood all the time. And I can't feel any other emotion besides positivity. And let's get real here. We are human beings. We are humans who are here for the human experience. We are supposed to feel all of the emotional waves. We are supposed to feel every mood. And that's because there's lessons in them, right? Like anger shows us where our boundaries are being crossed. Fear shows us where we need to step through and try something new, right? So if we just sat in high vibration, I'm doing air quotes here if you're not watching. High vibration is not something that us as humans can stay in for, extended periods of time. And that's not to say that you can't strive for that. That is realistically a really good place to be. But I think what they're meaning by it is more high self-worth. And I know I'm already using a lot of buzzwords and I'm going to break them down for you. But essentially, what they mean by high vibration, high energy, high frequency is having high self-worth, which is essentially just being confident, setting boundaries for yourself. And, boundaries is another buzzword. Basically just not letting people impede over what, you feel is disrespectful to you or feels hurtful, triggering, anything that brings you into your true highest self is the version of you that is lit up, is happy, is confident, feels good, feels aligned, feels like you're on the right track. And you're not going to stay in that 24/7. It's just not possible as a human. So don't feel this pressure to constantly stay in high vibration when it's just not humanly possible. So that's the first myth that I want to debunk. You can still manifest even if you're not in high self-worth, high vibration all the time. But the universe's goal is to get us to our most worthy self. And what I mean by that is the universe wants to teach us how to love ourselves on the inside, not through materialistic things, not through our career advances, not through our relationship status. It wants us to feel whole and worthy and lovable and authentic based on who we are on the inside. And when you get to that state of just true confidence, true alignment, true authenticity, that is where the universe wants you to be. And that's where you'll shine. That's where you will see the most, where you'll see kind of your manifestations coming to fruition, because that's where the universe is striving to get you to be. But you can't get there without the lessons of emotions, different moods, anger, fear, sadness, all of these other emotions that are deemed like bad. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as bad emotions. You have to feel them all. There's lessons in all of them. And every time you feel those emotions and you allow yourself to learn from those emotions, you are stepping into an up level, right? You're taking those lessons into the next version of yourself. And that's all the universe is trying to do, is get you to up level and up level and up level. And that's when you'll see manifestations coming through. That's when you'll see yourself hitting goals that you set for yourself. You'll even things that you didn't even realize, you will like have triggers that come up that you're like, I don't even know why that bothers me so much, but there's a lesson in it. And once you figure out what that lesson is, you're up leveling. There you go. It's a whole other part of you that's unlocked. And that is the point of life. It is to just be a little bit happier every day. So high vibration, total myth, we are humans. Number 2, speaking things into existence. So speaking things into existence, what my take on that is, yes, it is important to say what you want. It's important to speak your needs. It is important to get clear on what your expectations are, what you're calling in for your manifestations. It's important to have those, on your mind. But they are not going to bring you your manifestations. They are just a part of basically your knowing, right? They are just for you to have clarity on so that you know what to do, if that makes sense. So they are not going to bring you your manifestations. The part that's, you could speak what you want out loud until you're blue in the face. Like you could say, I want a new car. I want a new car. I want a new car. that's not going to bring you a new car, just saying it all the time. You've got to take action. You've got to put in work to getting a new car. Maybe you've got to start saving. Maybe you've got to start test driving cars. There's so much more that has to happen for your manifestation to come through. And so a lot of these gurus who say like, oh, I just speak it into existence and it appears, they are completely leaving out the part where they put in super hard work to get there, where they work their butt off to, essentially just speak it into existence, right? And that's not to say that every manifestation is hard to achieve, because some of them are more attainable to you right now. Like, for example, just this last year, I've manifested quite a few free cups of coffee, right? I believe that it's possible for me. I am putting myself in the path of getting a free coffee, right? Like, I'm going to the coffee shops. It's happened to me before, so I know that it's possible. And so I'm not just speaking out loud, I want a free cup of coffee, and then it just happens, right? Like, if I just sat in my living room all day and I never went somewhere where I could get a free cup of coffee, I'm probably not going to get one. Like, maybe my husband could like bring one home to me and it would be like a cool little surprise, but I'd have to have a husband, right? Which I do. But that is still something happening to bring that into existence for me, right? Like, I'm not just speaking about it and hoping that it comes to fruition. So speaking it into existence, it's important because you've got to be asking the universe for it, but the universe expects you to be a part of society, right? It expects you to go out there. It expects you to put the work in. It expects you to live the human experience. So if you're not doing those things and you're just kind of waiting around for whatever you're speaking to happen to you, you're going to end up disappointed. So speaking into existence is, not necessarily a myth, but it's not the whole picture. Number 3 is authenticity. So this one might surprise you, but you can actually manifest without being authentic. But here's the kicker. Not being authentic in your manifestations won't bring you fulfillment. So you may manifest some stuff, but if it's not authentic to you, if it's not something that you feel very aligned about having, if your soul doesn't truly desire it, you're going to end up not feeling fulfilled, right? You're going to be like, well, I don't really want that thing, or that thing doesn't light me up. So yeah, maybe you manifested it. Like it's on a bigger scale. As an example, these like millionaires who are depressed and, people look at them like, oh my gosh, like you have everything. Like, how could you not be the happiest person? And it's because it's not aligned for them. It's not fulfilling to their soul. The things like maybe they have all this money and fame and power, but what their soul craves is a healthy relationship. And maybe they don't have that, So it's like, if it's not in line with their soul and their authenticity, you could bring it in, you could manifest these things, but it's not going to fulfill you. So authenticity is like arguably like the most important part. That's kind of like what the whole point of living is, not to get too deep. We will get deep on this podcast, but to keep it short, it is the point, right? To be authentic means being happy, being lit up, calling in things that are aligned with us. And so even though you can manifest things that aren't authentic to you, they won't be fulfilling. So being authentic is very important on your manifestation journey. Number 4, this one might ruffle some feathers, but it's the truth. So number 4 is all of these, how do I explain it? These practices like visualization, crystals, mantras, positive affirmations, all of these things that spirituality kind of like pushes on you aren't going to help you manifest. Unfortunately, that'd be cool if we could just visualize what we want and it appears. But there's actually been some studies that show visualization can be helpful for bringing your goals to fruition, but they can only be smaller visualizations because your brain can only truly retain smaller visualizations rather than like a huge drawn out, like, imaginary dream life. So once it gets too big, it kind of gets lost in the nuance of all of your other thoughts. But also, it's only a part of the process. It's the same as speaking something into existence, right? Like, you're only picturing something. You've still got to put the action behind it. So you may hear about these like NBA players who are, they visualize themselves making the free throws over and over and over again in their head. But what you are forgetting about is the fact that they go onto the basketball court every single day and practice their free throws. So like, the visualization is definitely a helpful tool. It gets them, fired up, thinking about it, motivated. They can, think about ways that they could be better, but they also still have to go into the gym and practice their free throw. So visualization, crystals, mantras, positive affirmations, another good example. They are helpful tools. It is super helpful to say, I am beautiful, I am loved, I am worthy. It's really awesome for your brain to hear those things, and it's so important how you speak to yourself, but it's not going to completely change the neural pathways, which I'll talk about that on a different episode, some of the neuroscience behind it. But it's not going to change your neural pathways without also physically doing things that make you believe that you are beautiful, that you are worthy, that you are loved, right? So you could say it to yourself, but then if you go out and have actions that don't make you feel beautiful, maybe you go out and you're around people who criticize you, you could say, I am beautiful till you're blue in the face to yourself. But if you aren't actually surrounding yourself with people or situations that make you feel beautiful, it's very hard to believe it when you say it to yourself, right? It's super hard to feel like you're loved when you are around people that make you feel like you aren't loved, or when you are doing things that you're constantly criticizing yourself for, right? You have to be gentle with yourself, give yourself grace, start doing things that make you feel loved. Like, maybe every time you read 10 pages and you complete that goal, you're like, wow, I'm so proud of myself. I did something that makes me feel really good. Those kind of actions behind making yourself feel loved, while also incorporating the positive affirmations. So 4, ruffle some feathers, because they're not entirely unreliable or untrue, but they are just tools. So if you are only doing these things, but you're not actually like putting in the work to like your inner child, your shadow work, all these things that are much more important, arguably much more important than the crystals or the mantras. If you aren't putting in the work to heal the shadow self, to heal and get closer to your authenticity, then they aren't going to get you very far. And so those are a couple more buzzwords. Let me just explain those really quick. So your inner child, if you've heard that, but you don't really know what it means, it's basically, you have to think this brain that we have in our body is the same brain that we had when we were a kid, right? These memories, we may not even remember all of our memories, or most of them we might not remember, especially if you had some dissociation when you were a kid, or even still currently, but you may not remember them, but they're still in there somewhere, right? And these inner child wounds, like criticism we had as a child that kind of shaped the way that we think today, maybe abandonment issues from a parent leaving, and then you kind of have this wounding that you have re-triggered over and over again through other experiences in life. Like, let's say you have an abandonment wound from a parent leaving, and then you go through your first breakup, and it triggers that wound, like, oh my gosh, somebody else is leaving me, somebody else doesn't want to be with me. These kinds of things reinforce that wounding. So it's so important to heal, and it's a journey. Let's not forget it's a journey. So healing that inner child it's a lifelong process. So you've got to give yourself grace, but working towards healing those are what get you closer to authenticity. They're what help you become more whole, more in love with yourself, more able to be happy, right? Because when we heal those, then we're not constantly getting triggered. We're not constantly feeling depressed, anxious, and we are essentially a little bit happier. And shadow work is very similar to inner child wounding, but the shadow work is more focused towards the parts of you that you hide, right? You put them in the shadow. So let's say you were a super outgoing kid and people always told you that you're too much. So you might start to put your outgoing personality in your shadow. You think it's bad to be outgoing. You think that you're annoying. You think that if you are your big outgoing, like super charismatic self, that people will think you're too much and they'll be annoyed with you and they won't want to be around you. So you try to hide and downplay that part of yourself. That is your authenticity that you're hiding, right? Your shadow self it's a part of you. And that is the shame that you have built around that is just programming. It is basically just the crap that people have put on you, they've projected onto you, because there's somebody else out there who might love your outgoing, who likely will love your outgoing self, but you have been ashamed of it for, through the conditioning that you haven't allowed yourself to express that side of you. And even things that aren't, deemed as an okay thing, like, outgoing personalities, some people like those. So it's arguable that would be a shadow self thing. It very much is. But even a part of yourself that is maybe arguably a little bit more shadowy. So let's give an example of like, maybe you get angry really easily. You're kind of a hothead. That could be a super shadowy part of yourself that you're ashamed of. And so you try to shove it down, but really looking at the side of your shadow where it's like, yeah, maybe there's certain situations where I could do better about controlling my anger, but my fiery self, my passionate, angry self has also helped me set a lot of boundaries with people. Or it's also helped me to get my point across in a way that needed a lot of fire behind it, right? So finding peace with your shadow self is crucial to happiness, right? Because you don't have this shame surrounding a big chunk of who we are. We all have it. We all have inner child wounding. We all have a shadow self. And the faster we can uncover that shame or heal that hurt, the closer we can get to our authenticity and the more happy we will be. So number 5 is a few different things that I kind of just compiled into number 5 because they're all kind of similar. So with manifestation, there are a couple of like rules. One of them, this one gets a lot of people because it can be very frustrating when you feel like you are doing all the right things and you're trying so hard and you're putting all this work in. And this is no timelines, because you may feel like I have worked so hard for this. I have done like everything that I need to do to get this manifestation. Why is it not coming to me? And what you don't see that the universe sees is the behind the scenes, right? So you're putting all this work in, you're putting in extra hours at work, you're working on your inner child wounding, and you're like, I want this new car so bad. Why is the universe not bringing it to me? Because you said, if I don't have this new car right now or in the next 6 months, then, that I give up. I'm not doing this anymore. But what you don't see is that in 8 months, this new model of this car is coming out that's going to be even more aligned for you and even more amazing. And the universe knew that it was coming. So it needed you to be patient. It needed you to trust in the process, right? Because the universe has our back. And it knows that when we put this work in, when we're being authentic, when we are healing ourselves and we're being happy and grateful and whole as we are, then that's the real journey, and it's going to reward us with what we need. And I'm going to say really quick, kind of off topic, but super important, is manifestation is not as woo-woo as you might think. It feels like this weird spiritual world. And the reality is that it's actually not near as spiritual and woo-woo as you think. We are all manifesting, and I will prove it. So when we think of life, we set goals for ourselves, even if we don't realize it. So we may think, oh, in 10 years, I hope to be married with kids. That is you calling it a manifestation. You have this vision and this hope for the way that your life is going to go, but you have no idea that it's actually going to happen. None of us do. We have no idea what the future holds, but we put our trust and faith that if we continue to live on this earth, that the things that we want will come to us, right? If we didn't put our hope into that, we would give up, right? We have no idea what tomorrow holds. That's the truth. We have no idea. But we put our faith and hope and trust into what we want coming to fruition, right? We set these ideas of how we hope our life goes, and that's manifestation. That's all it is. That is it right there, and we're all doing it. It is not that woo-woo. We say, hey, I hope my life turns out like this. I'm going to put this out there and say, I hope it ends up this way, and I'm going to put the work in. I'm going to go on dates. I'm going to try and meet somebody that I would want to have kids with. I'm going to, work for this job promotion that I am looking forward to. And we hope that it comes. We hope that we achieve it, right? So that's all manifestation is. And like I said, if it's aligned for you, then it's going to feel really good when it does come through, because likely it will. Likely whatever you're calling in will come through. But if it's not aligned for you, that's when you see people, quote unquote, reaching their goals, but they're like, wait, I don't like this, So manifestation is not near as woo-woo as it sounds. We're all doing it. But this leads me into the art of detachment. You've probably heard about this before. People saying you have to detach. If you want your manifestation to come in, you have to detach. You have to put it out there and let it go. What they are meaning is, because it's like you can't fake this, right? Like if you really want something and then you just pretend, like spiritual bypass is what it's called. If you just pretend like, oh yeah, no, I totally don't want that thing anymore, universe. Like you can totally bring it to me now because I really don't want it. It knows. Come on, like it knows. So what they actually are meaning by this is finding peace in the fact that you might not get it, or finding peace in the now where you're at right now. So an example of this is like, let's say you are trying to manifest moving into your dream home. And you are right now, you're like, oh, I hate my house. I hate the way it's decorated. I don't want to live here. I'm so over this. And you're like so desperate for this new. You're like, my life will be so much better with this new house. My house will be perfect. It's going to give me everything that I need. And the universe knows, it won't, because everything you need is within you. So the art of detachment is looking at your house and saying, maybe this house isn't my dream house. Maybe this isn't where I want to be for, the rest of my life. I'm ready to move. But I actually really like my gym in this town. And I like that my house is really close to the gym. And I actually like that I have a little walking path right down the street that I can walk every day. And I actually like that this house has like a really big master bedroom. And you start to be like, maybe this house isn't that bad. Maybe my mansion, my dream house, whatever it is, maybe that's not as big and amazing and fulfilling as I think it is, because there's a lot of good in my life right now. And kind of getting at peace with where you're at right now, that's the art of detachment. Once you don't put all this desperation energy into what could be, that is when the universe is like, okay, you are figuring it out. You are figuring it out that you are whole already. You are whole and you are one and you have everything you need right now. So that brings me to our final little piece is expectations of how it will show up, how your manifestation will show up. Thinking back to the car example, we think, oh my gosh, my manifestation will be perfect if I have a Lamborghini that's red and, whatever. I don't know cars, but we have this like expectation. It's got to be like this. But the universe might know that, this other car is way better for you. So instead of having this expectation of it has to be this way, same thing with the timeline. It has to be this timeline. The whole goal is that it fulfills your soul. So you may be surprised, and likely you've already experienced this in your life. Like, you ended up a relationship ended that you thought was going to be your forever partner. And then your next person comes along and you're like, oh, like this is why it didn't work out with that other person, right? If we don't put these expectations on how the manifestation is supposed to come through, then we are able to have things come through that are so much more aligned, right? They're just so much more than we could ever even dream up. So recapping on the 5 things, high vibration is a myth. Speaking things into existence is not enough. Authenticity is what will bring you true fulfillment. Visualization, crystals, mantras, those are great tools, but they're not the end all be all. And if you allow the universe to send you things in the way that it's supposed to come through, you don't put the pressure on it, you will manifest some really amazing things and you will live a little bit happier. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you next week.